ओम त्यागेश्वरम रामकृष्णम शारदाम मातृरूपिणीम विवेकानंदमाचार्यम नत्वा वक्ष्यामि शुद्धये योगेन चित्तस्य पदेन वाचा मलं शरीरस्य च भैषजेन योपाकरोत्तं प्रवरं मुनीनां पतञ्जलिं प्राञ्जलिरानतोऽस्मि. In our last class, we were discussing this sutra, Drishtanashravika Vishayavitrishnasya Vashikara Saujna Vairagyam. One of the two methods or two means to attain to this yoga were Abhyasa and Vairagya. Abhyasa we discussed. Vairagya this is the first sutra. There are two sutras which describe Vairagya. This is the first one. It said that what is Vairagya? What is renunciation? So it said Vitrishna. Vitrishna means lack of interest, so to say. Disinterest, detachment. From Drishta and Anushravika Vishayas. From objects seen and unseen. There is disinterest in pursuit of seen and unseen objects. That is called Vairagya, and according to some commentators, this Vashikara Saudnya, that means the name of this Vairagya is Vashikara Vairagya. So this is the name of this Vairagya, Vashikara Saudnya Vairagya. Seen objects are that we see, money, power, objects of sense enjoyments, prashamsa, appreciation, praise and all, name, fame, these are seen objects. And unseen are like heaven and all that. These yoga philosophers, they have a state of Vaideha, disembodied state, or state of Prakritilaya, being merged in Prakriti. These are all unseen objects. So there should be, or there is, disinterest in both kinds of objects, in pursuit of both kinds of objects. That state is called Vashikara Saudnya Vairagya. That is the meaning of this sutra. So it is not just enough to have disinterest in the objects of this world. There should be disinterest towards objects of the next world also. The Swarga Kami, those who desire for Swarga, they do not have Vairagya. They may have Vairagya towards things of this world, but they are not Vairagis. They are not Vairagyavan, because they have desires for objects unseen. So that is the one point we discussed last time. Swamiji expands this definition and he says it is disinterest not only in pursuit of the objects of this world or the next, disinterest in desires, but also disinterest or lack of interest, detachment, even from other drives like anger or hatred or fear, all these. So Swamiji has expanded this definition of Vairagya as being detachment from all kinds of drives which this world or the next creates in our mind. The objects of this world or the next, they create drives in our mind. Detachment towards all those drives, whether of desire or hatred or fear or anger, jealousy, disinterest towards all these is Vairagya. Swamiji expands this definition and that makes sense to it. Now, how does this happen? That Vyasa Bhashya, when you say, then only we can understand. So Vyasa says, Vishaya Dosha Darshinaha. He says, there are these people, those who have this Vairagya, they have formed a habit of finding defects in the pursuit of these drives. Whenever drives arise, these people, they have trained themselves, so to say, to investigate, to ask questions. What is it that this drive is wanting me to do? Is it necessary? What are going to be the effects of this pursuit of these drives? I want something, if I pursue this desire, where it will lead me to? or I hate someone, if I pursue this hatred, where will it lead me to? And they find that it is going to be only a painful experience in the long term. It is going to extend this samsara, this ajnana. So there is this dosha in pursuing the drives that arise in our chitta, in our mind. And these people, they have made it a habit, their second nature, so to say, to find faults in pursuit of these drives. That has become their second nature, their shila. Vishaya dosha darshanam has become their shila, their habit, their second nature. And when this happens, that also is a vritti, you see. This dosha darshana is also a vritti. That will create samskara. And these samskaras of dosha darshana, these check over a long run through continuous habit. When this dosha darshana forms samskaras, these samskaras will check the samskaras which give rise to drives. We have earlier seen this. Samskara vritti chakram. Vrittis come out of samskara, and vrittis die again as samskaras. It's a chakra, it's a cycle. So these Vishaya dosha darshana vrittis, they will form samskaras. Those samskaras will counter the samskaras which give rise to the drives. So in this state of vairagya that Patanjali has mentioned here, called Vashikara, these dosha darshana samskaras are so strong that the samskaras of raga, dvesha, abhinivesha, these do not transform into vrittis at all. And that's why he says, Vishaya samprayoge api chittasya anabhogatmika heyopadeya shunya. Though objects may be around, there is no drive, which generally happens in ordinary human beings, in other human beings. They see something that gives rise to a certain drive in their mind. But a person who has this Vashikara Samjna Vairagya, he or she has the objects around, seen or hears about certain enjoyments of heaven and all that. But the mind does not form vrittis of either desire or hatred or fear. The mind does not break into vrittis. And there is heyopadeya shunyata. There is effort neither to possess nor to get rid of those objects. What we hate or fear, we want to get rid of. There is no such desire to get rid of anything or any desire to possess something. That state of mind, it's a neutral state where that person transacts in a very simple, matter-of-fact way, uncolored by any drives. That person's behavior is not colored by any drives. It becomes a very natural, simple behavior, transactional behavior only. That state is called Vashikara Samjna Vairagya. It's a very high state because the mind is not breaking into the vrittis of drives. And according to the commentators, you see, there are steps leading to it. The first is Yatamana Samjna Vairagyam, where the person is fighting on all fronts. All kind of drives arising in the mind and the person is fighting, trying to find the defects of pursuing, sometimes falling and pursuing those drives. And this kind of beginning of spiritual life, so to say, that is called Yatamana Samjna Vairagyam, which is like walking in the slush. You keep falling, you again get up, again you move forward. So that is the Yatamana Samjna. The second is, he or she finds that I have gained control over certain drives, but certain drives are still stronger. Vyatireka Samjna Vairagyam. That is, there is control on certain drives, except certain drives. So there is Vyatireka Samjna. And then Ekendriya Saujna, where he or she finds that there is no pursuit. Pursuit has completely ceased. But the drives keep coming. It is Ekendriya, that is Eka Indriya, single Indriya, only mind is getting affected. So the drives are coming in the mind, vrittis are forming, but they are not strong enough to make that person pursue those vrittis. So the desire may come, the anger may come, but there is no pursuit. So that is, all these drives are limited only to the one indriya, that is mind. So it's all Ekendriya Saujna Vairagyam. And then comes the last Vashikara Saujna, when even drives die out. There are no drives in that mind at all. The vrittis of desire, hatred do not arise at all. So these are the 4 stages, so to say, in this Vairagya. You see, few things we understand from this. When it's yoga without Vairagya is no yoga in the strictest sense of the term. So yoga for prosperity, health, and whatever other worldly objects, these are maybe the, so to say, byproducts of yoga. Patanjali did not write for all these. He wrote it for spiritual benefits. So renunciation is a part and parcel of yoga. Vairagya is a part and parcel of yoga. People get scared when they hear of Vairagya. First, we have to accept this fact that without Vairagya, illumination is not possible. Whether it happens in this life or after innumerable lives, that's a different matter. That depends on God's will. But unless we individually attain to that state of Vairagya, illumination is not possible. This we have to accept, we have to understand. As Swami says, a person who has an ideal may make 1,000 mistakes, but a person without ideal will make innumerable, uncountable mistakes. So we may fail, we may say we are too weak, and of course we are weak to have this kind of Vairagya that is described by Patanjali. But at least we should accept this ideal. Swami says, never lower your ideal. We should not lower our ideal. Yes, this is the fact. And this is science. Unless certain conditions are fulfilled, we don't get the results. So this is the precondition for realization, for realizing God, for knowing our own real nature. This renunciation is a precondition. If we want God, we have to go through this, whether in this life or whichever life. But this is the only path. There is no other way. There is no way where we can enjoy the world and realize God. That's not possible. There is one point. First we should accept this fact. Secondly, Swamiji also said we should start from where we are. We are not in a position to practice all this or continuously discriminate and all that. So Sri Ramakrishna says, when a person is intoxicated, we have to give this rice water in small doses, sips of rice water. Slowly, over a period, that intoxication will come down. That's what Sri Ramakrishna says. So this, our inebriation of this world, our blind love and entanglement with this world, it's like inebriation. And if it has to come down, we have to take this doses of remedy slowly for a long period. That is the only remedy. And Sri Ramakrishna also says one should hear about Vairagya. First time you hear, second time you hear, you will remember, yes, I heard it. Third time you hear, you will feel like, what is it? Let me know. So hearing repeatedly about it also helps. And also there are other means which Sri Ramakrishna has said. Repeating name of the Lord, praying to God, doing all our work in a spirit of dedication unto God, trying to see God in all beings. These are certain practices which purify mind, and most importantly, reflection, introspection. Introspection is a very strong antidote, so to say, for this inebriation that we have in this world. Every day we should spend some time, not only in scrutinizing how we spent the day, but should also try and see mental states through which we passed in the last few hours, last 12 hours or 24 hours, whatever. How we reacted, why we reacted, and this kind of introspection. When we introspect the day-to-day physical activities, we find where we wasted our time and how we can plug it. But we should also audit our mental states, so that what kind of mental states we passed throughout the day, and how we can correct, how we could respond in a better way. Now, this kind of introspection, this is very necessary for spiritual aspirants to make progress. This creates a habit, and then slowly we understand how to react at the time of reaction. So anyway, so this is what is this Vashikara Saunya, Vairagyam. It is a very high state, no doubt. But still, it is not the safe zone, so to say. Safe zone in the sense, the yogi or a spiritual aspirant who has reached this state is not free from danger. We find in our scriptures so many examples of rishis of advanced spiritual attainments. They fell from that path. Because here the samskaras are still there. Samskaras of drives are still there. They have not gone. So a moment of carelessness can lead to a fall. And that's why this is called Apara Vairagya. This is lower Vairagya. And Patanjali takes up the subject of higher Vairagya, Para Vairagya, in the next sutra when he says, Tat param purushakyater gunavaitrishyam. Tat param, that is higher Vairagya, which is gunavaitrishyam, caused on account of purushakyati. Purushakyati is the cause, and gunavaitrishnya is the actual Vairagya. Vaitrishnya we have seen, Vaitrishna is disinterest, detachment. Detachment towards gunas. Now, that is Vairagya, that is Para Vairagya. And born out of, caused by Purushakyati, that is awareness of Purusha, awareness of our own real nature. That is Para Vairagya, that is higher Vairagya. You see, according to the Sankhya's and many other, even Vedanta accepts the concept of gunas. Gunas are, so to say, building blocks of this entire creation. We know we have three gunas, sattva, rajas and tamas. And the yogi or the spiritual aspirant has vitrishna not only towards objects which are products of the gunas, but the gunas themselves. The vitrishna towards the very building blocks of this whole creation. That is highest Vairagya, that is Para Vairagya. So that is the difference between the two. The difference, it is on two counts. One is the Vishaya, the other is the Nimitta. The difference on account of Vishaya is in the Apara Vairagya, in the lower Vairagya, there is disinterest towards objects. In Para Vairagya, there is disinterest towards gunas, which go to constitute those objects. The very fundamental building blocks, there is disinterest towards gunas. So that is the one difference between the two, Vishaya. And second is nimitta, the reason, the cause for this vairagya. In apara vairagya, the cause is Vishaya dosha darshana. This habit of detecting the defects of the pursuit of objects, that is the cause. By continuously detecting the defects of pursuing the objects, that causes this Vishaya Vitrishna, that causes disinterest in objects. Whereas in Paravairagya, the cause is Purushakhyati. Purushakhyate Gunavaitrishna. Purushakhyati. That leads to this complete disinterest towards the very Prakriti itself. This Purushakhyati is the word Tachuddhi Praviveka Apyayata Buddhi. Vyasa Bhashya says. Tachuddhi Praviveka Apyayata Buddhi. There is this discrimination, that is the last, so to say, stages, where when the mind becomes pure, the concept, or not only the concept, the experience or knowledge of I changes. Now we think we are this body, mind and all that. But when the mind becomes pure, on account of this aparavairagya, this aparavairagya brings purity of mind, and that purity of mind will show us our real nature as being Purusha, as being the self. Purusha is a word used in yoga and Sankhya for self. So it will give us that knowledge that we are the self and we are pure. That Shuddhi, Praviveka. And this Prakriti is Jada. Prakriti which goes to constitute all these objects, which had, so to say, inebriated the whole world. But it is Jada and we are conscious. This difference, this discrimination, we will have this discrimination on account of purity and continuous practice. That will lead to satisfaction. Apyayita buddhi. That person's chitta, heart, becomes satisfied. There is nothing more to be done. This Prakriti, I have nothing to do with these gunas and its products. I have nothing to do with these sattva, rajatama gunas and their products. I am entirely distinct, pure, conscious entity. This knowledge leads to the awareness of complete distinction and to a sense of complete satisfaction with oneself. I don't need anything because all of that is Jada and I am Chaitanya Swarupa. I am conscious, this is unconscious. What all this world and the next can offer me, I have no interest, I am satisfied. That realization comes, that apyayita buddhi. Such a person has this vairagya, which is called paravairagya. There is practically no distance, so to say, between this vairagya and kaivalya. It is tantamount to kaivalya. So this is the paravairagya. Patanjali states this also, because this is the safe zone. Only when the person has realized himself or herself to be Purusha, to be the self, distinct from this Prakriti, and has become satisfied, then only he or she is safe, so to say. That is Paravairagya. So these are the two Vairagyas that are talked of in this Yoga Sutras. Abhyasa also 2 sutras and Vairagya also 2 sutras. One is Aparavairagya and then Paravairagya. Both have different Vishayas and different Nimittas. They are caused by different entities and their objects are different. Once we have these two, Then next, Patanjali will take up the concept of yoga in terms of Sampragnat yoga and all that. We'll see later. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanastu.